What's up with y'all, man? Welcome back. Scotty Knows, another podcast episode number 3. Hope you guys have enjoyed my previous episodes or previous videos, per se. This is episode number 3. Been a while for an original podcast episode. So for these podcast episodes, they're kind of the longer version of the 10-minute videos. Just talking about basketball, a little bit more extended, me just free flowing and just going off the top of my dome with a couple of notes. Uh, just a longer version of what I give you guys with the 10-minute type of content. So, yeah, this is going to be an original episode, episode number 3. It's been about a month since I did an original episode, so why not start off with college basketball again? I believe my previous video was on the Trae Young trade. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Haven't done a college basketball video since the Caleb Wilson Dark Horse video, right? When I just kind of explained how Caleb Wilson could possibly be in that top 3 type of mix. There's a lot of players that could probably be in that top. Well, I would say it's the top 3 of this draft class. Cam Boozer, AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson. Those are still like the 3-headed monsters per se, but definitely there's a lot of other players that, when it comes to those 4 and 5 spots, there's a lot of players, probably more than I could count on one hand, that deserve to be the 4th or 5th pick in the 2026 NBA draft. But for this episode number 3, we are going to just be talking about college basketball and some of the freshmen. This past weekend was probably the best weekend in college basketball by far. One of the better weekends that I've had watching college basketball. Of course, during this weekend, everybody snowed in. It's kind of like a winter wonderland outside, but yeah, it's the perfect weekend if you're not going anywhere to pretty much sit down, watch some sports, watch some college basketball. Why not? And this weekend happened to be like the best weekend for college basketball, especially when it came to the freshmen and their performances. So I appreciate y'all for clicking on this video. I hope you guys like, subscribe, and do all that. And we're going to get right into it, man. Let's go, man. So let's get to performer number 1 from this wonderful, wonderful weekend. The top performer. Should I rank them? No, I don't need to rank the performers, but we're just going to talk about them individually and whatnot. So, performer number 1, Keaton Wagler from Illinois. Keaton Wagler from Illinois put up 46 points, 9 for 11 on threes, 13 for 17 from the field, 11 for 13 from the free throw line in the Mackey Arena at Purdue. So Keaton Wagler was pretty much unstoppable against Purdue in that game. I think he had like 20 at half or so, something like that. Yeah, half of his points, 20-something points at half. A lot of threes, a lot of just shot making and just shot making from beyond the arc in particular. Really interesting how Keaton Wagler kind of has forced himself into this conversation of being a top 10 pick, and possibly now I've seen some people say that he could possibly be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, which for me, I think that's still a little bit high. I understand the hype around his name right now. I understand the performances that he's putting on right now, or at least from this past performance, and how he's kind of just ascended up the ranks and his stock is going up in the NBA draft. When, to be honest with you, to start the 2025-2026 college basketball season, I don't think a lot of people knew who Keaton Wagler was, or he wasn't necessarily he wasn't a top 100 player in college basketball to start the season, or even let alone maybe freshman. So he wasn't a freshman or a player that people had on their radar too heavily, from my understanding at least. Definitely wasn't on my radar. I discovered him pretty much right around when all the hype started to fly in. Kind of like a month ago or so. I want to say a month ago is when I was like, oh, okay, who's this Keaton Wagler dude? He's nice. But yeah, he had 46 points, 9 for 11 from 3-point range, 13 for 17 from the field, 11 for 13 from the free throw line. Wonderful, wonderful performance from Keaton Wagler. Is he a top 10 pick? I believe so. When I do my big boards or my mock drafts and whatnot. Okay. when I do my big boards and my mock drafts and whatnot, for the most part, he is in that top 14 lottery pick range, just because I think his translatability to the league and his translatability to the NBA combined with the potential that he has moving forward, because he's only like 18 years old up to this point as a freshman. Um, it's awesome. He kind of reminds me of like a Jamal Murray type of player, I guess. When I want to make a comparison, I'm not great at comparisons really. I kind of just go with like what I feel, and he reminds me a little bit of Jamal Murray, for sure. Kind of what 6'6", frame, or 6'6" height. Different frame, a little bit on the slimmer and skinnier side of things, but for sure, reminds me of Jamal Murray in terms of the way he moves, keeps things simple, could kind of just I don't know, just it's kind of like the way a player can move. You kind of could tell, like, okay, they remind you of this player, or they remind you of that player. Um, my favorite thing about Keen Wagler's performance is how locked in he was throughout the game. It's really awesome to see a player pretty much be on fire all game, be in rhythm all game, and do the things and make the type of shots that he's making, while also staying cool, calm, and collected. Usually, uh, you start feeling yourself a little bit, and that's when you start to lose yourself. Because you want to be a confident player, but you don't want to get too cocky out there, right? You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to lose sight of like what's really important, which is really getting the win and just playing good basketball at the end of the day. Um, and that was the most enjoyable thing about Keen Wilder's performance from yesterday. It wasn't like yes, of course he had the hot hand. He for sure had the hot hand. Um, he got in a great rhythm in that first half, and it pretty much just carried on throughout the game. Or like in those first 5 minutes, he just hit like I think he scored the first like 11 points or whatever, how many points it was for Illinois in that game against Purdue. So of course he kind of already had the hot hand. He kind of was already in great rhythm after those first 10 minutes in the game. But what was really cool to see was that he got the majority of his points within the offense. It wasn't like he was just out there kind of just chucking up shots, um, taking a whole bunch of shots that you wouldn't want him to take. Uh, it was more like in rhythm. He was still playing basketball at the end of the day. He was still uh, going on with the game plan and playing within the flow of the game, allowing other guys to get touches, distributing the ball, being a point guard and whatnot. So that was my favorite thing about his game, about his performance against Purdue. Um, and what's great for a player like Keen Wagler is that all you need is a performance like this. All you need is a huge performance like this to really put you up in those ranks, and you could just stick there for a while until draft time. So this type of performance, rightfully so, should put him in that top 5 range of NBA draft stock, right? So shout out to Keen Wagler, great game. Showed off his 3-point shooting, showed off his how he's a smooth operator out there. Some people said he has some shades of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. For sure, when it comes to his demeanor, kind of a little bit more serious, a little bit serious, calm, collected, uh, focused for sure, and not afraid of contact either. When it comes to the physical parts of his game, not afraid of contact. He could bump you with his shoulder. He's not afraid to take it to the hoop, and he doesn't avoid contact. He actually seeks it. So, and that's one of the things when you're looking at these guys in high school or college looking to be in the NBA, you can't be afraid of contact. You have to. That's just the basketball thing in general. No matter what level you're on, you have to be able to take contact unless you're like a super quick player or you have a extremely quick first step, which nobody could guard, um, especially on those lower levels. But once you get to the NBA, you're gonna need to toughen up and take some contact. So I'm definitely looking to see how well he takes contact. But the fact that he has the intent of taking the contact and what he's willing to be physical out there when he tries to attack the rim and attack the hoop. That's what's most important. And then like just getting stronger is just going to come with time, of course, because he's still a young player. He's on a slimmer side. Um, and yeah, but great performance for Keen Wagler. Not a lot of players perform like that against Purdue. The one thing though, I wish that Purdue just would have honestly just play better defense, make him uncomfortable. Easier said than done when a player is just hitting those type of shots or just when he's on fire all game. But definitely wish Purdue would have. I don't know. They needed somebody to make him feel uncomfortable, kind of like the Steph Curry effect. When Steph Curry has it going like that, you put a player like Tari Eason on him, put a player like Amen Thompson on him, put someone on him that's just gonna make him feel uncomfortable. Where's your Patrick Beverly? Who's going to just get low and just get in his grill, make him feel uncomfortable, make him guard him when he's on the bench? You know what I'm saying? That we just saw a couple days ago. Like he needed that type of treatment, and they didn't really give him that. So I wish they just would have been a little bit more physical and forced him to be uh, to not being as great of a rhythm to start that game, or once he got things going, just to make that adjustment. They kind of failed at doing that, or just they don't have the personnel or the game plan to really to execute those type of things, I guess, for that game. But shout out to Kean Wagler, definitely a top 10 draft pick in my eyes. Um, wouldn't say he's a number one guard in this draft though. I wouldn't say that. I think the number one guard who I'm about to talk about next is Kingston Flemings. But Kean Wagler, great performance, for sure a lottery pick. But let's talk about Kingston Flemings real quick. Kingston Flemings put up 42 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, 15 for 26 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, um, at Texas Tech. So, first of all, Kingston Flemings is for sure. Oh, wait, I'm thinking, first of all, Kingston Flemings is the number 2 guard in this draft. That I think I just said he was the number 1 guard on accident. But just to be clear, Kean Wagler would be my number 3. Flemings is my 2. I think we all have an idea of who the number 1 guard in this draft class is, but Kingston Flemings would be my number 2 guard in this draft class. Gives you kind of uh, gives you Tyrese Maxey and Drew Holiday type of vibes, in my opinion. Tyrese Maxey just being the quick first step, the quickness to explode towards the hoop and kind of just like be a blur out there. I feel like a lot of the reason why or the main reason why Tyrese Maxey is so dominant in the NBA is because he's pretty much a blur out there. He has a great first step and great quickness and speed and twitch while also being one of the best shooters on the court. Shooting 40% from three and whatnot. Kingston Fleming started off the season for the first 2 months of the season like shooting almost like 45%. Like he's shooting extremely well for those first couple of games of the season. So right now I believe he's shooting 38%. So it's come down a little bit. Not gonna lie, it's come down to earth, but really like he's shooting well from three. He's shooting above average from 3 point range for NBA standards at least. The NBA average from three I believe is 37%. But Kingston Fleming's 42 points last night. Uh, the most impressive performance from last night definitely was Keaton Wagler, just because it was so like the way he began that game was just kind of crazy. Uh, but Kingston Flemings, in terms of how much he really can do for you, being a point guard, being a scorer, being a distributor, the defense, the intelligent plays that he makes from a game-to-game basis, including the one against Texas Tech. I don't know if he gets the award for most impressive or kind of like what caught me off guard the most, but definitely probably my favorite performance, just because like he really is just running things on Houston right now. I think even though they lost that game against Texas Tech, which is really surprising, Houston definitely, I think they have a legit shot at winning the championship this year for real. They got real close last year. I think Kingston Flemings, with his offense and what he's providing you as a freshman, could possibly, if he could put up similar performances like this in March, I think that could really, really catapult them to actually winning um, March Madness and being national champs this year. I know that's a lot to put on a freshman. Um, Obviously, not expecting him to drop 40 a night once it comes to March, but if they could get the impact that he provides when it comes to the intelligence on the court, the ability to just really score on all three levels, finishing strong, scoring in the mid range, shooting just well from three. Doesn't have to be at that 40% clip, but just shoot slightly above average like he's been doing all season. Um, he's been a bucket for them. He's been a great distributor, or he's been a good distributor. I wouldn't say like he's not the best distributor in this draft class, I think that award goes to Mikael Brown Jr. But he's been a good distributor. Defensively, he's been good as well. Uh, Definitely just a great all-around guard. I think he's the most complete guard in this draft class, outside of maybe Duran Peterson. Um, there's not a lot of holes in his game when you think about a player like Kingston Flemings. That's the main thing. That's why he's so intriguing. That's why he's so fun to watch, and that's why he's so damn good. It's just like there's not a lot of things that you look at in his game and you're like, oh, he doesn't really have this. Like he has it for the most part. So, and at the NBA level, he doesn't just have to be a point guard. He could probably play the two. He could play off of another primary ball handler if he needs to as well. That's why he kind of gets those Drew Holiday type of comparisons. Um, just the ability to just be a great all-around guard that impacts winning, and he just happens to stuff up the stat sheet from time to time as well. So Kingston Fleming's performance yesterday was awesome to watch. The top performance of the night, I think, would go to Keen Wagler just because it was so like surprising. It was so like, wow, he really just scored 46 on Purdue, one of the best teams in the country, against one of the best point guards, opposing point guards in the country. And what's his name, Braden Smith, I believe. I want to give him the best performance of the night. I'll just give that to Keenan Wagler just because it was so surprising. It was kind of like, wow, he really just scored 46 points on great efficiency. Um, Lit it up from 3-point range. Kind of was just played very steadily. Has a great demeanor. Played extremely calm and at his own pace. Um, Against one of the better point guards in the country in Braden Smith. One of the better point guards in Purdue history. So, yeah, Keenan Wagler takes that top performance of the night, but Kingston Fleming's definitely the number 2 guard in this draft class, without a doubt. Uh, let's move on to AJ DeBonsa, who scored 43 points, 4 for 5 from 3, 15 for 24 from the field, 6 boards, 9 for 10 from the free throw line. Um, not necessarily going to talk about AJ's individual performance against Utah. Besides like the 3-point shooting is starting to come along. He started off the year shooting, I believe, like in the mid to late 20s, like 27, 28% from 3. Now he's up to like 34, 35, starting to get to where you want it to be. Shots is still a little bit flat, but obviously his shot is just going to get better as time goes. I'm sure he'll add more arc to his shot once he gets to the NBA and once he becomes a little bit more seasoned with his shot and he gets more reps up. But AJ DeMonta, I want to just talk more about like, can he actually be the number 1 pick in this upcoming draft class? Um, it's really hard between him and Duran Peterson for me. I love Cam Boozer, but I would put him at that 3 spot for now. He is the most gifted wing or scoring forward that we've seen since probably like a KD, I guess, in college. Or that might be a stretch. I don't know. The last wing or forward that I remember scoring like this, unlike, all 3 levels. Again, I feel like 3-level scoring is definitely. I'm gonna mention 3-level scoring a lot when it comes to the draft, or when it comes to a lot of these players and whatnot, just because 3-level scoring is so important. Um, because the more you can do on the court, the more I'm gonna watch you on my team. The more ways in which you can score, the better. You want to limit as many. You want to limit as many holes as possible. You want your players to pretty much do as many things as possible. You want them to do a little bit of everything out there, especially your star players. So when I look at Duran Peterson and AJ DeBonta, they can both score on all 3 levels very well. Maybe Duran Peterson a little bit more efficiently, um, behind the arc at least for now, just because he's a better shooter. AJ DeBonta is for sure in the running for the number 1 pick, without a doubt. To me, it's between him and Duran Peterson easily. Like I said about 3-level scoring, that's extremely crucial. Being able to score in as many ways as possible on all 3 levels and create for your team is very important for a number 1 overall pick, because that's pretty much what you want out of your primary option. Because when you're picking with a number 1 overall pick, you're pretty much choosing one of your franchise cornerstones for the most part. So, um, in a game that dominates with size, it's easy to say that AJ DeBonta would be the clear number 1, or not clear, but he would be the pick that you choose with, just because he could replicate a lot of what or he replicates similar aspects to what Darren Peterson does. He's just a larger human being. He's like 6'9", 6'10", um, and is also very skillful and can score in multiple ways. He can score in the post. He has great footwork and like pivot game. To be honest with you, um, just in the post and in the mid range area. Uh, Again, can score on all three levels. Has upside defensively. So does Darren Peterson, but Darren Peterson just better off the ball, better. Uh, he dominates more off the ball than a AJ DeBonsa does, and just more efficient outside shooter. Um, but definitely it's between those two for that number one overall pick. Not an easy choice, but if I were to choose right now, I would just take Darren Peterson over AJ just because like with what you've seen Darren do for the past couple or for the last month that he's been back or so, um, he's doing it off of like one leg kind of or just that's an exaggeration. I feel like when you watch him play, he's out there showing athleticism. He's doing what he's got to do. You know, I feel like people are exaggerating his hamstring injury a bit when it comes to like the one leg thing. I mean, he's out there. If he's healthy, he's gonna play. So he feels good enough to explode off of that leg and play basketball. So, um, I think what's just impressive is that like he's in and out of the lineup. So one game he's playing. Um, 30 minutes. The next game, he's not really. He's kind of in and out of the lineup, or just like in and out of the game. You know, not finishing games or not playing the game at all. So the fact that he's kind of dominated with his scoring purely off of like his shot making and I guess off of one leg, and I guess just not always being in like an easy rhythm of games, just like not knowing when he's gonna play, not knowing how he's gonna feel, is real impressive. And AJ DeBonsa, he's just gotten gradually better throughout the season. He's been great all season, but I feel like every game or so, it seems like he's just getting more and more comfortable getting to his spots. He's scoring in multiple ways, pull up threes, pull up mid range jump shots in the post, some pivot work, long strides to the rim. That's like one thing to nitpick. I guess he's just like he likes to use his strides. He's a strider, kind of like a Giannis Antetokounmpo. Likes to just use the typical and predictable strides to the hoop. Sometimes, like once you get to the NBA, he's gonna have to diversify that a little bit when it comes to his finishing package and his ability to get to the hoop. But definitely, without a doubt, a skilled wing or just scoring forward. Um, that could do a lot for you. So definitely in the running for the number one pick. That's AJ DeBonsa's who he is as a player, and also just like he had a great game last night against uh, their rival Utah. He had 43 points, 4 for 5 from three. The 3-point shot is going up, like I said. 15 for 24 from the field, 6 rebounds, 9 for 10 from the free throw line. So um, yeah, pretty much a historic game for a BYU player for sure. BYU basketball is definitely the best it's been in a little while. So shout out to AJ DeBonsa. Let's go on to Cameron Boozer. Cameron Boozer from Duke. Cameron Boozer is my favorite prospect um, in this draft class just because of my personal loyalty um, to him as a player. I've watched his game or kind of have seen him. I've seen Cam Boozer play since high school. I've seen the highlights, the clips. I've read things about him. I've kind of grown to just love his game, just because he's simply a good basketball player. He makes the right play 90% of the time. He plays with toughness, power. He's skillful, so he could shoot the outside shot. Just a good, genuine basketball player. Very dominant as well in high school, which like in high school he didn't look like he was a high school. He looked like he was already at the D1 level, possibly pro when it came to his size. So I had no doubts that he would be a good player, and I had no doubts that he would end up being one of the top picks once it came draft time for him. Once it came time for him to enter the NBA draft and whatnot. Of course, there are certain things when it comes to his translatability. Uh, of course, coming into the college game, he's facing more players that match his size and have similar frames as him or similar frames to him. So sometimes the whole power and just out power and just use strength against his opponents just don't work as easy as they would in the high school game, because in high school you're not facing guys that are 6'9", 6'10", strong and powerful with the same type of filled out strength and size like in the pro game or in the college game, right? Like in D1 basketball. So definitely has to work on his finesse a little bit and um, just work on certain ways to just score in the post, score down low, outside of just like overpowering and just using strength to finish over guys. Definitely has the touch though. His touch is fine. It's just more about um, becoming a more skilled post scorer instead of just using power. Uh, but other than that, he's a great basketball player. He makes the right play 90% of the time. Um, he's pretty much like a hub type of player, so you could play through him like a Demontis Sabonis, like a Nikola Jokic and whatnot, kind of like a Yusuf Nurkic type of player, Kevin Love and whatnot. You could play through him. He could be a playmaker for you. Uh, I love his game. I love his game. Kind of like a modern day Kevin Love with a little bit of his father's game to him. Um, so definitely has some shades of his father in him. Carlos Boozer, that just makes sense, right? He's his son, so definitely a fan of his game. And just against Wake Forest was just another example of that. I feel like the last couple of weeks he's kind of just been more and more dominant. I feel like he's becoming again more and more comfortable, similar to AJ DeBonsa with all these players. Really, obviously, like we're in the prime of college basketball right now when it comes in the season. Like we are in the smack dab in the middle of the season. March is like 2 months away. We understand a lot of these teams. We understand how teams are playing this year. We understand who the good teams are. We understand who the good players are. By now, as a basketball player, you should be in rhythm. You should understand your team's system and how you're playing and where your role fits exactly and how you can impact winning. So when I look at a lot of these players, especially for Cam Boozer, I mean 32, 9 rebounds. Rebounding is probably is the most translatable aspect to the NBA. Rebounding in general, no matter what level, amateur, high school, uh, college basketball, pro level. Rebounding is you need that. You need to close out a possession on defense. Simple as that. And then obviously, if you get offensive rebounds, that's a plus as well. So, um, offensive rebounds, you just get more second chance points. So 32 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 3 for 8 from the 3 point line, or from beyond the arc, rather. Uh, just looking more and more comfortable as he plays. I just hope that all of this could translate to the NBA at some point in his career, and he becomes like a legitimate all-star type of player. Um, right now, he'll be like number 3 on my big board or on my in my rankings for a lot of these for the NBA draft. Just because when I look at Deron Peterson and I look at AJ DeBonsa, they're more they are really they give you that all of them have the ability to become stars at the NBA level. Um, I just view 3 level scoring type of guys that could face up and kind of just like really be like an aggressive uh, primary option scoring wise. I view them a little bit higher than an offensive hub like Cam Boozer. That because that would pretty much be his role once he gets to the NBA. He'll be more of like an offensive hub type of player. And to me, if you're going to be an offensive hub type of player, which I love because I love just guys that play like point guards. I love guys that play with like a cerebral mindset that have their head up, that can make things easier on their teammates, of course. But to me, if you're going to be a hub in the NBA, especially nowadays, you need to be at least close to like a Jokic level type of player, I think. Not saying you can't win at all. Not saying you can't win an NBA championship as like a playmaking type of center or as a center that likes to play in the post, be on the block, do the dirty work, kind of just play through you. But an example of this would be kind of like Demontis Sabonis. Demontis Sabonis is a great player. He's someone that's nearly averaged a triple double in the NBA, which is not common at all. Only a few players in league history have ever averaged triple doubles in a single season. But his role and the way he plays and just trying to find a fit for him on a winning NBA team that's going for like an NBA championship or that has contending aspirations in the NBA, it's hard to really find a fitted role for him. That's just easy to be like, okay, he would fit perfectly here with this team in this type of system, and he could win. He could be a contending. He could win with this team. He could win an NBA championship. He could win. He could go and contend for this type of team. So that's my concern with Cameron Boozer. Um, just like the translatability part to the NBA. He's going to be a great player. I think he's definitely going to be a all-star caliber player at some point. Um, I just don't think he would be. I wouldn't choose him over a AJ DeBonzo or a Duran Peterson just because I think the typical face-up guards or forwards that could kind of score on all three levels. Um, Again, face up and kind of just like be the circumference in the center of an offense. Like those type of players, kind of like a Jalen Brown or a Jason Tatum, a Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker. Those type of players, I find more. They're just easier to translate on multiple teams in the NBA, and it seems like you can just find an easier fit for them compared to like a Domantas Sabonis or maybe even an Alperen Sengun. Just because at the center position, your job is to also protect the rim. So when you look at a AJ, not AJ DeBonson, when you look at a Cam Boozer, who's pretty much like I project him as a four in the NBA. He's gonna be like a power forward type of player. Um, but when you look at a player like Cam Boozer, who kind of he's not a bad defender at all. He's a pretty solid defender. But he's solid though. He's solid on that end. He's not really like a rim deterrent or like a rim intimidator at all. Um, and I feel like the easiest way to have a good defense is just having a great uh, rim intimidator and like rim protection because the easiest shot in basketball is a layup or a dunk. So if you have a player like Rudy Gobert sitting in the paint, when you have a player like Victor Wembanyama sitting in the paint, or a Nick Claxton, or a Bam Adebayo, like legit rim intimidation and legit rim deterrence, like a Chet Holmgren for example, Isaiah Hartenstein. You need those type of players to really prevent those easy baskets. And Cam Boozer doesn't really provide that intimidation factor for you, and he doesn't block a lot of shots, but he plays solid on that end. Like he's a steady type of player on that end. He's not gonna break a coverage. He's not gonna get like cooked in the pick and roll or anything completely. He's just not. I wouldn't project him as like a center that you want anchoring your defense. And if he is gonna be that type of center, or if you do put him at the center spot, then you really have to have guys on the perimeter, and you have to have guys quick enough on the perimeter that could recover and just play proper help defense when they can to help them out in that anchoring role. You look at a Karl Anthony Towns on the New York Knicks, my favorite team. Love Karl Anthony Towns as an offensive player. He could do a lot for you. One of the more skilled offensive players that we've ever seen at the center position. But when you have him as your primary center, like we saw against the Indiana Pacers in the conference finals, when you have Andrew Nemhard and Tyrese Halliburton and a T.J. McConnell going at him and Brunson in the pick and roll, it's fried chicken. You're cooked. They were scoring every single time they targeted either Brunson, or definitely they were definitely scoring against when Karl Anthony Towns was on the floor. So that's my one concern. But even then, like he's a solid defender though. He's solid. He's just not a rim deterrent or like a rim intimidator per se, or he doesn't block a lot of shots. Not saying that she has to block a lot of shots, but I want the impact of like you see this player in the paint and you don't even want to go in the paint. Like when you see a Victor Wembanyama, you don't even want to drive to the hoop because it's just what are you really gonna do? When you drive to the hoop and you see Victor Wembanyama rotate over from help side, you're gonna want to kick it out. That's the type of player that you kind of want. So I project Cam Boozer as more of a four for sure, but definitely one of the best players in college basketball. Definitely, I think I have him as my personal national player of the year for this season. Great player. Just some maybe some concerns with his translation, but he could still be an all-star caliber center, or an all-star caliber player rather, in the NBA for sure. Final player, Darius Acuff. Darius Acuff, not one of my favorite players on this list. He's lower on the totem pole, but definitely another great player, another great freshman. He's a straight bucket, to be honest with you. He's a straight bucket. Again, can score on all three levels efficiently as well. I think that's what's surprising me the most. He's doing this with great efficiency. Against LSU, he scored 31 points, 6 assists, 4 for 7 from the 3 point line. Didn't get to the free throw line too often, but 13 for 19 from the field. I think the consistency combined with the efficiency is what makes him a lottery pick. Uh, Now my fear with Darius Acuff is just his. I was afraid that he would just become like a Cole Anthony type of player, which is not a bad player, but I feel like if you're picking in a lottery, you want to try to go for someone better than that. I kind of just looked at him as like someone that could maybe come off the bench for you, um, get a couple buckets, be kind of like a spark plug, 6 man type of player. Not necessarily a starting point guard, but what's kind of altering my thought process on that is his sheer ability to. He's been a pretty darn good playmaker this year. Um, he is leading Arkansas to multiple wins this season, and they will be in March Madness this upcoming March. They'll be in March Madness again. So he's kind of like the best player on this Arkansas team. Um, I think I'm enjoying. I don't know if I'm enjoying the season more than the Rob Dillingham season, but I'm definitely. I think I'm more confident with his translatability to the NBA than a Rob Dillingham. Um, and John Calipari has had many great guards in his career as a coach, and he just adds to that. And I feel like when you have guards that come from the Coach Calipari tree of coaching, or just or the culture of Calipari culture, you get a pretty good product 9 times out of 10. So um, my initial problem was just like I don't want to draft like another Cole Anthony type of player because if I'm a team like the Bucks that might be drafting in the late lottery, do I really want to draft a Darius Acuff or do I want to draft someone a little bit on the safer side? Um, but I think Darius Acuff is someone that is worth that to pull that trigger on. I think um, you might not be getting a legitimate starting point guard just because when it comes to just playing within the offense and just actually being like a floor general. I think you want a little bit more of that floor generalship, I guess, if you want to say it. More of like a pure point guard in that sense. Um, he does tend to over dribble a lot, but that's more so. I mean, if when he does over dribble, he's still getting the bucket. I feel like that's a nitpick, or that's not really a thing. It's just more. Take a player like LeBaron Philon, for example. When I look at LeBaron Philon on Alabama, he's more of a floor general. He's more of someone that's going to play within the offense. He's going to run things naturally. It seems like he just gets things a little bit more. He gets his buckets a bit more naturally in the flow of the game. And his feel, you could definitely tell. You could for sure tell that his feel for the game is kind of what dominates and what allows him to be such a great player. When I look at Acuff, he's just a straight bucket, which is fine as well, which is great. The thing is, you could always find a bucket in the NBA draft, especially at the guard position. You could find someone early in the second round that's a great scoring guard, and you could get a bucket in the second round that you could have come off your bench. When you look at a player like AJ Mitchell on OKC right now, second round player, bucket, coming off of Oklahoma City Thunder's bench for this season, and he's been one of the breakout players from this 2026 season in the NBA. So that's my only concern is to where it's just like, do you really want to draft Darius Acuff in the lottery or with like a top 10 pick? I don't know, but the talent is there for sure. I think he would be better than like a Cole Anthony type of player, or maybe like a even. I think he would fall in the range of like a Colin Sexton possibly, in terms of like the tier of guard that he is. Someone that's gonna bring energy and someone that's just gonna come off the bench and just get buckets for you. But I would say he has even more potential to be a legit starter than a Colin Sexton, just because his playmaking is a couple tiers. It's a notch higher than a Colin Sexton coming out of the draft for sure. Even now, I think. I do wish he played with a little bit more feel, and he allowed his. I wish he allowed his game to. This is just my personal preference. I wish he allowed the game to come to him a little bit more, and just to play with the feel of the game, and just play within the flow of the game. But even that might be nitpicking as well. I have him in my lottery. I don't know if I would start him. I don't think I would have him as a starting point guard immediately, but he could for sure work his way up. Um, but yeah, he's a player that plays with toughness, strength. Um, has one of the best handles in this draft. Probably, I think he is the best ISO guard in this draft. Outside of maybe a Derim Peterson. Um, he might be the best isolation player in this draft when it comes to like, hey, give him the ball and like want him to get a bucket for you. He could do that. He's getting a lot of what Stephon Marbury comparisons. So yeah, Darius Acuff is an awesome talent. I think he's also suffering from like the surplus of great guards in this draft class. This is one of the deepest draft class when it comes to the guard position. You got LeBaron Philon, Deron Peterson, Flemings, Keaton Wagler, Acuff. You got Brandon Burries. That's his name, right? Brandon Burries, or whatever. Something like that. The guard from Arizona. Um, that's like 6 or 7 guards off the top of my dome that I could say that should be in the first round and that could legitimately be like legit NBA players. So um, I like Darius Acuff's game. Not one of my favorite players in this draft class, but definitely a good one. Um, and yeah, that kind of concludes the the freshman takeover on Saturday. There are a couple of other great performances like Nate Ament. I thought he played with great confidence. That's kind of the main thing with Nate Ament. He played with great confidence. Uh, I feel like when you look at a player like Nate Ament, he was considered as like more of like a top 5, top 6 talent in this draft class. Definitely is not going to go top 5 or top 6, but I think a performance like this is kind of it's all you need from Nate Ament when it comes to his draft stock. I think he just needs like a couple of dominant performances to keep his name in that first round conversation, to keep his name in that top 20 pick conversation. Uh, so yeah, and he played with great confidence this past game. So that's kind of like his main thing. The more confident he plays, the more that he's willing to take the ball and actually take it to the hoop and be aggressive, take contact. Most importantly, play with some toughness. Um, those are the main things for Nate Ament to really like. If he just shows the willingness to do those things and just shows improvements in those areas, he should keep his name in that top 20 pick conversation. The lottery pick, we'll see about that, but he might have dropped too low at this point. But we'll see once it comes to especially March Madness time. If Tennessee makes the tournament. Caleb Wilson, clutch performance against Virginia. Virginia has been a pretty solid basketball team this year. Again, Caleb Wilson is. I've already came out with my Caleb Wilson video, so I don't need to explain too deeply on him. But he's a guy that doesn't really have the most polished offensive game, in my opinion. While at the same time, he still continues to score 20 a night. So if that doesn't speak to how he could potentially be an all-star at the NBA level, I don't know what does. Defensively, he definitely has certain awareness things and kind of like just quicker recognition, um, like quick recognition things that he wants to clean, that he should clean up. But one of my favorites in this draft class, loads of potential, extremely athletic. I hope he gets to a team like a Charlotte Hornets. That would kind of be like the dream scenario. Um, when it comes to like the fit. Imagine the lineup of LaMelo Ball, Conka Nipple, Brandon Miller, uh, and then you could put Caleb Wilson right at the 4, kind of like a versatile, athletic, defensive 4 with some offensive upside, and then um, Ryan Carpenter at the 5 position or whatever, or whoever at the 5, just a solid, productive center. Um, that would just be another great draft pick by the Charlotte Hornets, who are starting to figure things out for themselves. So, um, Caleb Wilson had a great night, and then Mikael Brown Jr. actually came back. He's healthy now. That's my main note. When I wrote his name down on my sheet of paper, Mikael Brown Jr. was the main note for him is that he's healthy now. He's playing. Had a pretty darn good game. I think he's probably the best playmaker, maybe, and passer of the guards in his draft class. I think he reminds me of like Alonzo Ball, Darius Garland type of player. Could play with or without. He could play with or without the ball. Uh, he could be an engine. He's kind of like an engine. And by engine I mean someone that could just generate offense for you, but at the same time, he doesn't need to force it. Kind of, you could give him the ball, set a screen for him, or don't set a screen for him, whatever it is. He could create an advantage if you just put the ball in his hands. You don't put the ball in his hands, he can still be productive and provide some floor spacing and play without the ball as well. So he's just someone that could really just generate offense for you and just create things when you put the ball in his hands. He makes good things happen when the ball is in his hands. He could distribute. He sees the floor. Pretty nicely. Um, Pretty cerebral as well. Good decision maker. I think sometimes his execution could be a little bit better when it comes to like certain passes, or no, his decision making could be better. I think his execution is actually pretty solid. I had to see him play a little bit more. He just came back. He just became healthy. So, but I like Mikael Brown Jr., one of my more favorite guards in this draft class. My favorite guards in this draft class would probably be Kean Wagler, Kingston Flemings, and Mikael Brown Jr. I think those would be like my three favorites. Just because I feel like they translate easily to the NBA when it comes to like, I've tried to think of it as like, if I want my NBA team to win a championship, do I feel like I can win a championship with these three type of guards? And I feel like I can, just because I feel like their translatability to multiple schemes or multiple systems in the NBA, it would work well. So not saying that a Darius Acuff's type of archetype doesn't fit on multiple NBA teams, but I feel like it's just an easier fit for the guards that I named. And of course, Darren Peterson is the best guard in this draft class. I haven't named him. I didn't name him in my top 3 just because he's such like an outlier when it comes to like, he's definitely going to be a great player. Like, he should be a star player in the NBA. That it's just, I don't really need to mention him. So, but yeah, that concludes the freshman takeover on Saturday night. That was pretty fun day of college basketball. A lot of games were played. We're smack dab in the middle of conference play, so it's exciting. We're almost at March. It's almost time for March. February we'll start with conference tournaments and whatnot, right? So exciting for college basketball. We got some great games for the rest of the week, so I hope you guys enjoy those games. Again, I appreciate y'all for watching. I'm Scotty Knows, continuing to get better at talking ball. I feel like I'm slowly improving a little bit. I feel like my ability to speak with the mic is getting better, but definitely could do better with some of my analysis, just because even when I write down notes, still trying to figure out how to smoothly communicate it to y'all. So still figuring that out. There's still ways that I feel like I could show how I know basketball without saying I think, right? Because I feel like I say I think a lot. Like the word I think this player is that. I think this player does this well. But I'm slowly getting better, slow and steady. So, but again, I appreciate y'all for watching this video, whoever's watching it. My previous video, the Trae Young one, had a pretty good turnout. A lot of views, so I appreciate y'all for real. Don't be afraid to comment on what you like, don't like, whatever you want. Like the video, subscribe, that's awesome. And yeah, I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Scotty Knows. Peace.